It was atrocious again. A lot, if not most of it, was a complete waste of time. This episode did barely anything to move the plot forward at all in any of the plot threads. But hang on, I was going to do a bit and pretend to like this show, so we're back with Amazon's Rings of Power again. Amazon's entirely respectful and loving homage to the life work of J.R.R. Tolkien. It's just a reweaving, a remoulding, a reshaping, like taking a beautiful statue and reshaping it using a sledgehammer until it's a pile of gravel. Enough of that, let's get right into this with the highlights before people tune out. The best part of this episode is Lloyd Owen as Captain Elendil, and the scene he has with his son Isildur. Isildur wants in on the expedition to Middle-earth, and Elendil does some good parenting. The son wants in on it and wants to use his father's position for special privileges. The dad says, "What have you done to earn it? You've crapped out of every single opportunity I've given you. The people I'm letting in are all more qualified than you." He basically tells his son to go away. Isildur's blown chance after chance, and this is maybe the best scene so far in the series, albeit the bar has been set very, very low. Lloyd Owen is frankly too good for this show. Him as Captain Elendil is the best thing in the show altogether, I think. He has bags of experience as an actor. He's been a jobbing actor in the UK since about 1988, doing steady work, mostly supporting roles. I want to like this show. I like Tolkien. It's nice to see Brits doing well, and there are loads of British actors in this. I want to like this show, but what Amazon is putting out here, I cannot say is objectively good. Now on to what I don't like. The worst part of this episode is that they kind of character assassinated Elrond. I'm not happy with what they did to Galadriel either. These are two of my favourite characters, and now they're assassinating Elrond. Do you remember him making this pledge last episode where he promised, on the memory of his father, that he would tell no one about the Mithril?
Do you swear at Elrond?
I swear on the memory of my father, Elendil the Mariner. Anything you tell me here will end in my ears alone.
So, Elrond goes before the Elven King, and the King already knows about the Mithril. It turns out he lied to Elrond. The reason Elrond was sent to the dwarves in the first place was because of the Mithril. Elrond refuses to tell the King. Gil-galad wanted the Mithril all along, but Elrond refuses to tell him anything. Elrond says he holds the oath he took very seriously. So okay, we're good so far. Elrond kept his word. Elrond then goes to Celebrimbor and says, "What did you ascertain?" And Celebrimbor hands him the Mithril sample back. That's right, it seems Elrond just gave the Mithril to Celebrimbor. When Durin gave Elrond the sample for no reason, I predicted they'd write something lazy. I predicted that Celebrimbor would find the sample, and that's how we'd find out about the Mithril without Elrond breaking his word. I thought they'd be lazy, and I overestimated them. What they did was even lazier than I'd imagined. Elrond, it appears, just gave it to Celebrimbor, off camera. So that big speech he gave to the King about the importance of his word was all rubbish. So that could be the worst part, or it could be the Galadriel training fight scene, because that whole thing was obnoxious. Galadriel is obnoxious. Galadriel is watching the Númenóreans train and get ready for the expedition to Middle-earth, and she doesn't seem impressed with what she sees. So we start off, and they're not using training weapons, which is bloody silly. I'm also not sure why they're training in what seems to be a public square. I hope the weapons are at least blunt, so one of your trainees doesn't accidentally lose their head from a miss-swing. So Galadriel goes to give them some pointers, or at least that's what she's supposed to do. Instead she simply says to them, thrust, twist, gut, as she mimes a thrust to the belly of an orc. Now, these trainees have probably never even seen an orc, but she doesn't tell them how strong an orc is, what weapons orcs tend to use, their typical tactics. She doesn't even tell them what an orc looks like. She gives them nothing useful whatsoever. And then she gets them to spar with her. And Captain Elendil says if anyone can cut her, they will get promoted. One of Isildur's friends steps up and lunges hard for her belly with the point of his sword. She dodges. Now, why did he assume she could do that? The audience knows, but he doesn't. He should be worried about accidentally killing the elf noblewoman. He would be worried if any thought had gone into this series at all. He then lunges again, at her face this time, and she dodges again. If she hadn't, she'd likely be dead. So why do they all respect her? None of these people have seen her fight, yet they go in using deadly force as if they know they're no real threat to her. I'm sorry, Amazon, but you've written something that seemingly completely fits the definition of a Mary Sue here. She gets unearned respect from everyone around her for no in-universe reason. Not one of them's seen her fight. She barely teaches them anything, gives them almost no instruction. All that she'll say is that they need to focus on movement and footwork. It's in her interest that they be prepared for war. She's going to go to war on their side. Instead, she seems to want to humiliate them, and seems to enjoy it. If anything, from the look on her face, she's getting off on it. She fights them on her own, 1 against 5 of them, and humiliates them all. It ends when one of Isildur's friends, not the one who's the bad actor, the one who's an even worse actor, gets a light touch and cuts her dress. So they're training, it seems, with fully sharpened swords, with no face or neck protection, as they swing wildly at each other's faces and necks. It's like they tried to copy the Jon Snow training scenes with the Night's Watch from Game of Thrones, and made it worse in every way imaginable. This scene was a catastrophe.
I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired this. In place of a dark lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me understand!
They've changed that Galadriel so much. They took a character of near infinite temperance, wisdom and reason, powerful and graceful beyond belief, and changed her so much that Galadriel now comes off as a smug bint, arrogant and petulant. There's no balance between the good and the bad in this show. What little good there is like pure water tipped into a bucket of raw sewage. Yes, it waters down the bad, but it by no means makes it drinkable. And I'm going to have to do a part 2 again. I've run out of time and I haven't even got into the Harfoots yet. Just when you thought it was safe, the Harfoots are back. And this time, they're singing.